Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at another leak. It is, of course, the MiG-25, or at least a screenshot of a MiG-25, which is from Baidu. Now, if you don't know what Baidu is, it is a Chinese company, but one of the things that they do is they actually have this thing called Baidu Tiba, which is kind of a discussion forum online. But Baidu itself, you know, they're just one of these massive conglomerate technology companies in China, very similar to, I suppose you'd class it as Meta in the US. But yeah, this leak came through, and people took it seriously because, of course, you had the F-16 leak, which was a while ago, and people still are taking it seriously. Maybe it is true, maybe it is not, who knows. But one thing that we do know is this actual screenshot is from a user mission. And this was pointed out by Ash, who's another YouTuber. I'll leave his link in the description and also the post where he talks about it. But yeah, I remember this. I remember where this screenshot's from. It's from a user mission. The guy who made it is a guy called Palaska 001. I'll leave the user mission in the description too if you want to check it out. Basically, what it is one where you can use the MiG-25 to intercept the American Black Demon. Now, one of the things about the user mission and comparing it to the screenshot is everything is exactly the same. The landing strip is the same, the general actual map is the same, and the vehicle is the same. The only thing that's different is, of course, the missiles. And if you didn't know, when it comes to user models, you can edit them to hold different missiles, and it's much easier to do than people actually realize. So the MiG-25 leak is probably not true. It could be true, but it would be very surprising. The guy who actually leaked it is called BVVD Pro 23. Good old Vyacheslav is at it again. Maybe he's trying to drum up some stuff. If you don't know who BVVD is, he's our god. He's the kind of creative director of War Thunder. He's the guy that you see on the Russian sneak peek streams on the left. He is a dude who is kind of ingrained in War Thunder's history because he's one of the major parts of what makes War Thunder War Thunder. And, you know, a lot of people who enjoy the game, basically it's mainly because of him and a few others who are around him in the background. But yeah, this was a person who were leaked stuff in the past. Whether it was true or not, that's always kind of up in the air. So what is the thing about the MiG-25? Why do people want it so much? Well, because it was the what-if plane, right? We did a video about it in the past, talking about the MiG-25 and how it basically worked. It was a vehicle which was supposed to be this ultimate vehicle. It was supposed to be able to go super fast. It was one of these which could annihilate anything that America had. It was the first time in a long time where the USSR had a step on the USA. Because if you have a look at, well, I suppose the 20th century, the general story that you have from it is America was usually ahead when it came to the technology race in most areas. Every so often there was a blip to the Russian side, but the vast majority of the time America was powering ahead. The MiG-25, especially when it comes to aviation, was the first time in the jet era where it could be classed as the Russians being ahead of the Americans. The propaganda that came out about the MiG-25 was that it was fast, it was faster than anything that was around the place. It also could maneuver because of its large wings, and also at the same time had some insane capabilities in form of weaponry. Now, what actually happened is the MiG-25 wasn't really any of those things. It had many different problems. The reason why it was that big was for stability, not for being able to turn. The vehicle could hardly turn, meaning that it couldn't experience too much overload or it would just break. And also, one of the big issues, the big engines that this vehicle had, the good old MiG-25, were incredibly unreliable and also needed a lot of servicing to keep them in the air, which was one of those issues that, a lot of these planes had. when it came to the Russians, and also their space program had similar issues because of how they decided to make their technology. Now, what was kind of interesting about the MiG-25, though, is not it itself and its combat record. It's actually what it spawned. The MiG-25 spawned a response from the Americans, something that usually went the other way around. The only time I would say in kind of history when I can think of a similar response was at the end of the Second World War, where the IS-3 started rolling out, and everybody went, oh my god, what is that thing? And of course, the British made the Charioteer to be able to deal with it. Can you imagine? Going, okay, we see this incredible heavy tank, what do we need to do? Charioteer. But yeah, that was not great. But the Americans, they decided to shut down all of their previous prototypes and previous ideas that they were working on, finish a few up, and then start a completely new doctrine around their ground forces, which is where stuff like the M46 comes from, where stuff like the M47, the M60, the M48, and all of these different areas. And then, of course, at the same time, in the 60s was when the Russians were able to get ahead again in the ground stuff. The T-64 comes out. Everybody goes, oh my god, what is that? It looks kind of nuts. Then, of course, the T-72 turns up, and everyone's like, oh my god, look at the autoloading system. This seems to be a general improvement of what we've seen before. And then the M60s were seen as kind of not as good as the T-64s and also T-72s. And then, of course, the Abrams came along, plus all of the other NATO MBTs, and the narrative shifted, of course, towards that side. So you can see that in history in many different areas. One of the interesting ones is actually computing, when you have a look at America versus the USSR and how that was kind of pushed forward. But there were technological leaps over and over and over again with each other. And the MiG-25 caused probably the largest technological leap over anything, which was, of course, the F-15. The F-15 was born out of the fact that America was afraid of the MiG-25 and what it was able to do. And the F-15 came onto the market and was designed, was built, and they had just made a complete megaplane. There wasn't anything that could touch it. Anything that was around at the time could not deal with the F-15, and America really hasn't looked back from that point. They were able to kind of put the final nail in the coffin when it comes to these types of designs, and also not just the fact that they can produce them, to this high level, but they can produce a ton of them as they go along. And we can kind of thank the MiG-25 for that. So even though the MiG-25 as a platform, it wasn't ever what it was kind of supposed to be, right? It wasn't ever something that really pushed itself out there. It was one of those vehicles which caused a great shift in the way that the world was seeing, certain innovations, and that meant that things could be pushed forward. That, I think, is the key story of the MiG-25. If the MiG-25 comes to War Thunder, which I'm sure it will, it'll be awful. I don't know how it fits in the game, which is why it isn't in yet, and why we've gone from the MiG-23 to the MiG-29, but the MiG-25 is probably going to be one of those weird event vehicles which turns up, fires some missiles, and then goes home, because that's pretty much all it's really designed to do. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.